It is now 11:11:11. Would the guests please rise and remain standing for the national anthem and invocation? The tolling of the ship's bell will be given by Fleet Reserve Association Ed Gibbons. Commander John C. will advance the colors.
Advance the colors.
Forward! March! Colors! Halt! Left! Face! Present! Color!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last light, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
We'll now have the invocation by the VFW Post Chaplain K.O. Miles.
What a great day that we have come to pay tribute to the men and women of this great country who've given their life. May you pray. Our Father in heaven, we are so honored, God, that you've allowed us to assemble in this place on this day as we pay tribute to the men and women of this great country, those who have gone away, fought wars on foreign soil, and to those who have given the ultimate prize, their lives, for the freedom of this country. We ask, oh God, that you would bless all that's here. Bless our nation. Bless the country in which we live. Give us the opportunity, the foresight to come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all men who range on this land. We pray, oh God, for the leadership of this organization. Give him forefront insight that he may lead us to a better day. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commander John C.
Present, halt. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Color! Ready? Cut! Post the colors! March! Return! March! Left! Face! Forward! March! Colors! Halt!
Please be seated. In 1780, the American patriot Thomas Paine wrote these words. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country, but that he stands it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Today we gather to offer our love and thanks to the unbroken line of men and women who do not shrink from service to their country. It may be possible to count the number of times America's military has been called to defend our freedom throughout the world. But we will never know how many more crises have been avoided because tyrants understood that America's armed forces were prepared to defend our freedom and freedom of others throughout the world. You can be certain, however, that there are many, many such times. More than 1 million American service members died in the services of this country. More than 1.4 million lived with the wounds they suffered while fighting for us. And more than 25 million former service members are still living today. That's a special group of Americans that we call veterans and our heroes. And today, we honor them by saying thank you for serving. And so we honor all who serve, those who fought America's wars, those who fought to keep the peace. Let us remember these words by President John F. Kennedy. Now the triumph summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not all as a call to battle, though in battle we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out. Rejoicing in hope, patience and tribute, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, and war itself. Americans' veterans did not shrink from service of their country. They do indeed deserve the love and thanks of every man and woman and child in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, comrades, Senator Smith, Mayor Schmidt, Chairman Culver, Representative Lee, City Manager West, and Colonel Smith, families and friends. Welcome to today's ceremony, and thank you for attending. I'm honored to be with you today on such an important celebration. I would like first to give a belated 241st birthday to all the Marines. Happy birthday. Hoorah. We're here today to honor our service members and to remember their sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend honor, duty, and country. Michael Montego once said, "Valor is stability, not of legs and arms, but of courage of the soul." We're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who join us in this group today, and those that are here only in spirit, a person can't help but feel awed and overwhelmed by the enormity of what we've encountered. I'd like to ask the service members and the veterans who are here today to please stand for a round of applause. Thank you for answering the call to duty. You've made our armed forces the most respected in the world. Thank you. Now, I'd also like to ask the family members of any service member to stand. We know you've lived through difficult times, and often it's taken a heavy toll to keep the home fires burning. Thank you for what you've done. Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. The heroes we honor today came from all walks of life, but they have shared several fundamental qualities. They possess courage, pride, determination, and selflessness, dedication to duty and integrity, all the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Many of them didn't ask to leave their homes to fight on distant battlefields. Many didn't even volunteer. They didn't go to war because they loved fighting. They were called to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary times. They rose to the nation's call because they wanted to protect a nation which gives us all the freedoms that we have today. Since the first shots of Lexington and Concord were fired, our Revolutionary War began. American women and men have been answering the call to the nation. Millions of America have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and our way of life. Today, our troops continue to make that sacrifice, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward to say, I'm ready to serve. They follow in the footsteps of the generations of the fine Americans and veterans that are here today. Some here were very young when they were sent to combat. However, all Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our call to serve. As you entered the post today, or here, you notice the small place of honor. It is set there for one. It's a way of symbolizing the fact that members of our profession of arms are missing from our midst. They're commonly called prisoners of war or missing in action, POW or MIAs. We call them brothers. They're unable to be with us this evening, and so remember this. At this time, Auxiliary President Tina Torres and Auxiliary District 7 President Pat Pritchard will honor all our prisoner of war and missing in action comrades.
The table set for one is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressors. Remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember. The single red rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep the faith awaiting their return. Remember. The red ribbon tied so prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn upon the lapel and breast of thousands who bear witness to their unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting of our missing. Remember. The candle. The candle is lit. Symbolizing the upward reach of their unconquerable spirit. Remember. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember. There is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. Remember. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us today. Remember. The chair. The chair is empty. They are not here. Remember. Remember all of you who served with them and called them comrades, who depended upon their might and aid and relied upon them, for surely they have not forsaken you. Remember. Remember until the day they came home. Remember.
Ms. Laura Etheridge from Geneva Hospital for a very special Veterans Day presentation.
Thank you for our service to our nation. Thank you for the sacrifices you made and your willingness to serve our country. You endured hardships and you were willing to risk your life to maintain our freedom. On behalf of Gentiva Home Health and Hospice, please accept our thanks and gratitude. When you see this pin, know that your service to this nation is deeply appreciated. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you and God bless.
Jerome's going to play each of the service songs, and at that time, would each member of that branch please stand and be recognized. An honor and a privilege to be able to introduce to you our first speaker. He's a role model, a man of distinction, and one of the most caring and supportive persons I've ever met. I really don't think he needs a big introduction, and as many times as he's been here, I don't know anybody that doesn't know him. It's our great mayor, Mike Smith.
Well, good morning. What a great day God has made to say thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the City of Dothan, Mike West, the Commission, and all the billion people that live in our, I'm talking about the circle, in our community, thank you. I want to share just a moment. Recently I had the opportunity to go back to Wisconsin where I grew up, and I went to a funeral for my Uncle Hans Geisbuehler. Uncle Hans was a cheesemaker, and like many of us, our generation, when we were young, we went to work for our families and their businesses, and so I got to be a cheesemaker when I was 9 years old, and Uncle Hans was tough. If you had to be there at 4 a.m., don't be there at 4:01 a.m. If you worked 7 days a week, don't say you want a day off. but he was a good man, and he raised 6 wonderful kids, and we were all best friends. So he was in his 90s, early 90s, passed away, had a great life. So I go to the funeral, and as you walk up to see the family, and I saw a Purple Heart. Well, Uncle Hans was my uncle. What was a Purple Heart doing there? And so I asked his daughter what was going on, and she said he never told anyone about his Purple Heart. He was a combat infantryman in the Army. He served in the 1944 December war, the Battle of the Bulge. It was during it was Hitler's last stand to try to make a big impact against the Americans, and he thought if he could pass the American lines and destroy the army at that time, that he could get a better settlement, a better treaty. It was serious. It was in the mountains in Europe. It was December, icy, snow. A lot of soldiers died because of the snow and the ice. During that month, over 100,000 Germans and Americans were killed. And what he did was he was on the back, I guess, something like the GPF. He manned a 50 caliber. And they called it an Amtrak or whatever because of the ice. And you know, the war, despite some of the movies, you have war at night too. And the offense came from the Germans at night, and so they took off, his driver took off, and he's shooting the 50 caliber, and they shot out all the lights of the Jeep, or we'll call it a Jeep, and so he couldn't see where he was going. His hand got shot twice, but he had another hand. They kept going, and they ended up behind German lines. Now, I don't think they meant to do that. I think they sort of got lost, but they ended up for 2 weeks behind German lines, hiding. And my Uncle Hans is Swiss. He spoke German. They were in a barn one night, and they were trying to steal some eggs and eat and feed themselves. And the farmer came in, and Uncle Hans spoke German, but he had his American soldier outfit on. So they thought they were going to get caught, but they didn't. And then they snuck into a German place and got some food, and they made it back to the American lines, and you know, they would change the password to let you back in. And well, they were out in the woods and in the mountains in the snow and the ice for 2 weeks, and they didn't know the password, so they gave him a hard time. But you don't give Uncle Hans too hard a time. And so they let him in, and they took him to the medical tent, and they were going to amputate his hand. And he grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and he said, I needed my hand. And they said, no, we got to amputate it. So he pulled his gun and convinced them to fix it up. I didn't know all that. He never told anybody. So today, for all of you, there are many stories like that sitting right here. I pray that you understand. We may not know your story and your sacrifice. We love you, we're grateful, and we pray for you. God bless you.
Our next speaker also needs no introduction to anybody in the Wiregrass. He's been here forever. I think he comes not only to celebrate Veterans Day, but to eat the egg salad sandwiches. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking for Houston County, County Commissioner Chairman Mark Culver.
And I do love those egg salad sandwiches, by the way. I think today I'm going to have to skip them, though, because I've got to head to the Peanut Festival. How many of you been to the fire? Yeah, it's been nice weather, huh? Been eating Polish sausages and mess. Thank you for having me here today. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to it every time. Isn't it beautiful weather that God has given us today to celebrate Veterans Day? I want to recognize my commissioners that are here. or your commissioners that are here, Doug Singfield from District 2 and Brandon Shute, District 4. Y'all raise your hand or stand up or something. There you go. Also, I want to recognize Betty Peters, our school board representative, who's over there. Betty, glad to have you here with us. And I want to take just a minute. We've got a lot of media here. I want to just say thank you to you guys for not only being here, but for doing the job you do the way you do it. I think we have seen recently how bad media can be. You guys aren't. You guys do your job professionally, and I know we that have to deal with you sometimes, we really do appreciate the way you do it professionally, and I just want to publicly say thank you for the way you do handle yourselves. Thanks. You know, I consider it an honor and a blessing to have served in this position for as long as I have, and to represent you. And part of that honor is always to come and speak to you on Veterans Day and to celebrate with you on Memorial Day and all the other times we're able to get together. It really does my heart good to be able to say thank you to veterans whenever we have that opportunity. We are so grateful for all the things that we have because of you. Without you, all of us who are elected officials wouldn't be able to serve. We wouldn't be able to stand here today. We wouldn't be able to assemble freely. We wouldn't be able to have the ability to exercise the rights and the freedoms that we do through God's grace and the sacrifice of many of you. Over the past year, we've been caught, as we have in most recent times, we've been caught up in very, very, very divisive political wars that seem to be the norm these days, and I wish we could figure out how to change that. I often wonder if those of us who run for office or political positions ever really think about the many of you here today and the many serving around the world that have given their lives so that we can enjoy being free, including the opportunity for free elections. I hope we're not complacent about the process that you and others have died for over the years, that others have died for, that you have fought for, and how precious that opportunity is. If we who seek to serve you at home thought more about what it takes to preserve that freedom and to maintain that right, maybe we would treat the process with a little more dignity and honor, and we could have better elections than what we do. The choices we have in government leadership should have to do with honor and being able to make judgment based on what's good about people and what's good for our nation, not what we have seen. Regardless if we agree about the outcomes of our free elections, we can all agree that the right to secretly cast our vote without fear of intimidation, a right you have fought for, and some have died, as I said, is enviable around the world. We shouldn't take them for granted, and I think we should be reminded, not just today on Veterans Day, but all the time, of those who serve to protect them. I think this election, more than any other in our lifetime, has showed why the freedom to elect our leaders is so important. Our leaders are not selected by polls, they are selected by the people. They're not selected by committees or hierarchy of individuals. They are selected by the people to represent the people. The will of our citizens to choose has been protected by you and your family over the years, and we are grateful to you for that beyond our expression. And I think we've seen how important that is in the last week. It's fitting that in the same week that we have just exercised one of the world's greatest freedoms, we gratefully come together today to recognize you and to thank you for what you've done. Heroes in past wars and those American soldiers today who stand in harm's way to protect those freedoms. Young people who are currently signing up to continue the fight to protect those freedoms. And that is happening today as we speak. Those who have the courage, the will, and the clarity of purpose to fight for it when it's necessary to fight. I ask God every day to bless our veterans and to protect our freedoms because it's important that we don't take them for granted. I ask God to be with us today and every day that our veterans are away from home, and to watch over our service members and veterans who set examples. I ask God to bless our new president because he has many challenges ahead of him. I ask God to bless our people to bring us together as we are tonight. And lastly, I ask God to bring a healing to the political division that has created such strife. And you've seen the things going on just this week. We are a great nation. We are a nation of many differences. But we are one nation under God. And I ask God to bring us together again as one nation because you all fought for that nation. Thank you very much for what you do and what you have done, and not only for being the veterans and fighting for what you do, but what you do in our community now. You guys are great community leaders, and we thank you for being that. Thank you.
Our speaker from the Wiregrass is homegrown, loves Wiregrass, and never forgot where she came from. She doesn't think of everybody in her district as a vote. She thinks of them as a friend. It's truly an honor to introduce to you Alabama Senator Harry Ann Smith.
Thank you so much, and it is such a great honor to be asked to speak on behalf of the state of Alabama. I can't tell you how proud I am of every veteran today that's sitting here. It's a day of celebration. I'm just overjoyed that we have the opportunity to meet here today, to look at this wonderful flag, respect this flag, and respect what it means to all of us here today. It means everything. It's our country. It's your service. And I am proud to be an American, and I'm proud to be standing here before you. As a speaker on the state of Alabama, we work tirelessly every day to try and make lives better for veterans in Alabama. It's a task, but we fight, myself and Paul Lee, Representative Paul Lee, every day in Montgomery to try and do everything we can to help you. But it's been pretty easy to fight those fights because you guys out there, you still lead the fight. I am so proud of the Wiregrass veterans and the legislation that you brought to us to introduce in Montgomery. It's been the Wiregrass that has led the state in legislation that's good for veterans. And for that, I'm very grateful that you've taken the initiative to step up to the plate and show the rest of the state what we should be doing to protect our veterans and to make life better. So to you, I'm very grateful for what you do to bring ideas, suggestions to myself and your delegation from Alabama. Again, if anybody knows it's about we the people, it's me. Thank you all for standing up for me, but most of all, I appreciate what you've done so that I can stand here today and speak before you, honor this flag, and honor you. I want to ask Paul Lee to join me. My husband today is going to be the guest speaker, so I don't want to say too much because I kind of helped him write his speech last night. But now he put the jokes and the stories, and so anyway, I'd like for Paul to say a little bit about what we've been doing on the state level and talk to you just a little bit, because I am proud to work as a team with Paul.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I didn't come prepared to speak today, but you know what today is, not only Veterans Day, but 99 years ago, on November the 11th of 1917, World War I ended. What was known then as the Great War. 1 year later, in 1918, November 11th, was dedicated Armistice Day. And we served in reference, we actually called Veterans Day Armistice Day until 1938. In 1938, it was passed that Veterans Day would be a national holiday. I tell you, it's because of what you've done, and it was recognized years and years ago of what we have today. All the free trade, even the faith that we choose to pursue is because of what you've done. We just had an election just a few days ago that, as Mark said, Chairman Carver said, was not the prettiest election you've ever seen. But we all had the right to go vote and knew that we could walk in and walk out with our lives being in danger. And that's because of you. And today, above all days, we're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're not independents, we're Americans. And we thank you because it's because of you. And almost a little over 20 million people today are living that are veterans. And it's because of you and them as well. It's because we have that right. And I don't want us to ever forget it or take advantage of it. We have done a lot of good things in the state of Alabama. We will continue to do so. If there's anything that you ever have a problem with, Senator Smith or I, either one will do whatever we can to help you because you are the reason we're there. I think she will tell you we enjoy what we do and we want to continue to do it and doing it for you. If you need us, feel free to call. Thank you again for what you've done for this country.
Well, today our guest speaker, as you've guessed, is Senator Harry Smith's husband. A lot of you may know Charlie. Some of you may have just seen him kind of lurking about when she's around. But the one good thing about Charlie is that he's always here to support us, support his wife, and support the ideals of our country. Charlie's a colonel. He's retired. He's received his commission as a second lieutenant in 1980 from the Officer Candidate School at the Alabama Military Academy after 2 years of enlisted service. After receiving his commission, he continued his military career in field artillery and commanded at the battery and battalion level, as well as serving in a variety of battery, battalion, and brigade level staff assignments. He's also qualified chemical, nuclear, and biological officer, completing the chemical advanced course at Fort Leonard Wood in 2000. He's a 1995 graduate of the Command and General Staff Officers Corps. He's retired from the military in 2010 with a total of 32 years of service with assignments in both the Alabama National Guard and the United States Army Reserve. Colonel Smith received many awards during his career, including Alabama Commendation Medal with 2 oak leaf clusters, Army Reserve Achievement Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Air Force Commendation Medal for joint force operations, and the Meritorious Medal with oak leaf clusters. He's a 1979 graduate of Geneva High School. He received his bachelor's degree from Troy University. Now here it's kind of crazy. He got his banking degree from LSU. He is currently employed as the Senior Business Account Executive for Troy Cable, which is now available in many areas of Dothan, and he's involved in many civic, charitable, and nonprofit organizations, including the Dothan-Houston County Rotary Club, and is a charter member of the Friends of Fort Worker, and currently serves as Secretary of the Board. He and his wife have been married 30 years, and they live in Sullivan. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure and privilege, Colonel Charlie Smith.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you for throwing a little plug in there for where I work. That's really good. And it's an honor and a privilege to speak to you today. And CJ and Commander C, thank you for the invitation to speak and the opportunity to be a representative of the many National Guard and reservists that have served our nation, as well as representing all veterans. Of course, you met my wife earlier, and she's here today. She is the Vice Chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee in the State Senate, and does great work and is a true fighter when it comes to protecting rights and benefits of veterans, and thank you for that, Aaron. And speaking of politics, this week we elected the 45th President of the United States in what was arguably one of the hardest fought campaigns in recent history. As a nation, we waited in line, some of us for hours, to vote for the candidate of our choice, candidates whose words we heard a lot of times uncensored on TV and radio and newspaper. We stuck signs in our yards announcing who we were supporting. We slapped bumper stickers on our cars. We pinned buttons on our lapels, wore hats, and even had heated arguments with our family, with our friends, with neighbors, and especially on Facebook over who was the best choice for America. The freedoms to express our opinions and our choices are protected under a Constitution that was forged from the blood and the sacrifice of the men and women sitting here, our veterans. Our country needs veterans, not because we love war, but because we love peace. Slaves have been liberated, genocide stopped, terrorists toppled, and democracies secured because men and women like the veterans among us here today have endured the hardships and suffered physical and emotional injuries, all in the name of freedom. Veterans are the foot soldiers of democracy, they are the sons and daughters of liberty, and they are the true agents of change for our country. And today, it's an honor to be here to honor those that have served and now serve in uniform, as well as those who died in service to our great country. Thomas Paine said, "Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must first undergo the fatigue of supporting it." And many of you here today have borne that burden and experienced the fatigue of waging war in order to bring about peace. To you I say thank you, and thank you for setting the example that inspired me and many others to raise our hands in voluntary service to this great nation. That shared service joins us together like no other bond. The camaraderie that we share in military service helps to define us. And I can honestly say that the times that I spent as a member of the military were some of the best times of my life. While I never spent time in combat, and my stories don't involve combat, I do have some that I'd like to share with you, and some of these start back in the late 70s when I first joined the National Guard. Back then we were still issued C rations, and I think y'all know what those are, the cans that you had to heat up. And I'll never forget our times gathering around for a quick meal when we had a few minutes and pulling out our little P38 can openers to open cans of what we called beanie weenies or spaghetti, or if you were unlucky, you got ham and eggs. I see some people nod. The P38 can opener was possibly the best invention that the Army has ever come up with, and I still carry one today. And I also think that the C ration entrees of ham and eggs may have been the inspiration for Dr. Seuss's book called Green Eggs and Ham. They were good, but if you ever opened them, they were green. Don't know how they got that. And while we had a lot of serious times, one of the funniest things that I've ever seen happen was when our sergeant sat a unopened and unvented can of beanie weenies up on the exhaust manifold of a running howitzer to heat them up. Well, he forgot about them, and so did we. And a few minutes later, most of y'all know what happened. It exploded. So there we were with scalding beanie weenies all over everybody that was around the gun. At first we thought that a round had gone off somewhere around us or in the gun. But finally we realized what happened, and it looked like we all had the measles from hot beanie weenies sticking to us everywhere. And I didn't tell you about this one, but who can forget the accessory pack that came with the C rations? You got 2 chiclets and some John Wayne paper. Anybody remember the John Wayne paper? Well, after a few months, and I guess now political correctness has kind of been abandoned with the latest campaign, so I guess it's safe to go ahead and talk about this, but from what I remember as a very young private, I finally got the nerve to ask my sergeant, "Why do they call this John Wayne paper?" He told me. He said, "It's rough, and it's tough, and it doesn't take crap off anybody." That's what he said, not me. I'm just repeating his words. But in all seriousness, the bonds that were formed, when you're with these folks, were formed because that you knew that you could depend on the people that you served with. You knew that they had your back and you had theirs. And I'm sure most of you have some great stories here that you can tell, and experiences that I hope you'll tell when you leave here today. And I hope that you'll share them with your family and friends, much like the mayor said earlier. I've always thought that Veterans Day kind of got the short end of the stick holiday-wise, because for a lot of Americans it's not an official day off work, but I think it should be. I believe that Veterans Day serves to be a very important purpose, and it's a day that we recognize all those that have worn the uniform of military service. This day, above all, is the opportunity to celebrate the choice that someone makes to serve our country. For some, it meant World War or worldwide conflict in World War II, or a lifetime of peacekeeping missions, or tense standoffs during the Cold War, and for others it was the jungles of Vietnam or in Korea or Panama. And of course we can't forget that in recent years, for many, service meant multiple tours to Iraq, to Afghanistan on active duty, and as reserves to National Guard members. Roughly 1% of our population serves in the military. Winston Churchill said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed to so many by so few," and he was talking about you. So today, to honor that debt, I ask that you take time to honor service members both past and present. And I'm looking at 3 ways we can do this. One is find ways to volunteer to help with the many veterans programs and through the Veterans Affairs offices. Secondly, take an effort to promote military service to our youth and let them know that the military is a viable and a valuable career option. Harry Ann and I have a chosen son that came to live with us when he was between 15 and 16. His name is Cam, and he's now 21, and he's serving in the Army in Ansbach, Germany. He was recently, in fact about a week ago, promoted to E4, and we're very proud of his service. He's a Apache helicopter repairman, and our hope is that he's putting the right parts in the right places. I'm sure the pilots are thinking the same. And third, just like Mayor Smith said earlier, it's a coincidence that we had this in our speeches or our talks. If you're a veteran, please share your story with others. Let everyone know what you've done so that they can see the many faces of the military service and appreciate the personal service of our neighbors. If you're not a vet, find someone in your life who is and simply thank them for their service. For all the veterans here today, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. I share the pride you feel in being able to count yourselves among that 1%, a part of the greatest military in the world. Many of you continue to serve as leaders in the Wiregrass volunteers in our community, and the Wiregrass is home to many veterans who continue to give their time to support the military. And I know we've done it already, but at this time I'd like to recognize all the active duty military and veterans that are here with us today. So if you will, please stand, and if you can't stand, just raise your hand so we can recognize you and give you a round of applause. We are free today because of the great Americans like you, and we thank you for that freedom. Thank you. For those not in the military, thank you for choosing to share this special day with us and for showing your support for these American heroes that are sitting around you. It's been a privilege to speak to you today, and even a greater honor to introduce all those who have served. Thank you. May God bless you, and God bless America.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and He crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, America, from sea